Okay. I think most, if not all, the people in the waiting list are in. And welcome to our webinar. Let me get back to the beginning here. So we just wait a few more minutes as people are being let in. And if some of you, if you like, and this would help us, if you would put into the chat window what part of the state you're from. You know, what floristic area or what chapter. Oh, my dogs are banging around a toy. But, okay. All right, so we're gonna start. This is, we're in the North San Joaquin Valley. I've got a big foster dog, big German Shepherd, and he's rattling around. Oh, buddies. All right, so we're the North San Joaquin Valley chapter of the California Native Plant Society, and we hold these monthly webinars. This is our 14th event. Hold on just a minute.
While she's gone, let me make a quick confession that during previous webinars, I will actually, because I'm also helping to run things, I go and I actually turn off everybody else's video, because it could be distracting, especially some people actually pick up their computer and carry it around with them, and it gets really distracting for the speaker. So I'm going to ask that everybody turn off their speaker or their videos, obviously mute also, but if you turn off, then that way it's not quite so much moving around and stuff like that. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, sorry for a little break. I had to take the toy away. So our speaker is Mike Azevedo, and actually Mike is part of our chapter, and he's a board member, and he also works with me on doing these webinars. So he'll be talking sort of as two different personas. And his topic, which should be interesting to pretty much everybody, is exploring Calscape, the tool for California native plant gardeners. And they're doing some big enhancements. The state is doing that, and Mike has been involved in this from the beginning, so he's going to have a lot of information you can't get anywhere else. So the agenda is pretty simple. This is me, Cynthia Chipaldos, talking about our webinar series. Then I'll introduce Mike, and then Mike will tell you about our chapter and about CNPS in general, very quick overview. And then Mike will give the talk on Calscape. All these events are recorded and they're uploaded to our YouTube channel. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. But so you can always go back and watch it in our channel. We've had quite a few webinars already. I'm not going to read all of these, but there will be in the YouTube video, and they're all recorded and in our YouTube channel. The ones that have been the most popular in terms of attendance, although that's not really how we measure importance, but is the ones about gardening. And of course, that's what Calscape is. Here's some more, and we also had some talks about arranging native plants and bouquets, all kinds of things. Oops, sorry. Just a couple more of the webinars we've done. You can just glance at them there, and if you want to see them more in detail, you can go to our YouTube channel. Okay, so today is Exploring Calscape, the tool for California native plant gardeners, with Mike speaking. And then on February 12th, because we have a webinar every second Monday of the month, except for December. We will have Tina Donnelly, who's also a member of our chapter, talking about California water culture, an overview of how California's unique waterways have transformed, how it happened, and what it means. And this is, an incredibly complex and fascinating topic. And I'm so pleased that Tina has volunteered to give this talk. I don't have anyone for March 11th, and it could be you. If you have a topic that you think would be interesting, it probably would be. So just email me, and I'll, my email is on the next page. Well, I guess it's not, but my email is cynthia.canativplants@gmail.com. I think it's coming later. Here's our YouTube channel. So we've had nearly 5,000 views. We have 155 subscribers. And this is just showing you the most popular, the top 3, which is reliable California plants for a garden with no irrigation, landscaping with California native plants, and planting and growing a California native garden. You can see that gardening is quite interesting to the attendees here. Yeah, I keep repeating this because people are always asking me, is it recorded? Yes, it is being recorded. And it's typically the second Monday evening of each month. We never do webinars in December. The next webinar is Monday, February 12th. So if you have an idea for a webinar or you want to be a speaker, let me know. There's my email. And now I'm going to just quickly talk about Mike, and then Mike's going to take over. So Mike's a board member for our chapter. He does a lot of different things, including managing the membership aspect of our chapter. He's a California native plant gardener. He's got a bachelor's in wildlife management. He's worked at various parks as an environmental education naturalist, and he's the Stanislaus County coordinator for the California Bluebird Recovery Program. So, you know, he's got his, you know, he's doing a lot of different things. They're all, of course, around the same kind of topic, which is the native, California's native environment. He does give a lot of presentations about native plants, habitat restoration, cavity nesting birds, etc. And these 2 pictures, the one on the top, of course, is a slide from Calscape, and the one here on the right is a diagram that they have in Calscape. Okay, Mike, want to take over?
Yeah, so if you could go ahead and take over the admitting people in, and also check out there's a question. Melanie is having a hard time listening and seeing. If you could try and troubleshoot that problem.
He's having a hard time doing what?
Well, you can. It's in chat. She's already sent it. She's having a
All right, I'll
she's
look
having
in
a
the
problem.
chat.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Somebody go ahead and get started. First thing I need to do is to take possession of the screen. Oh, it used to be so easy. There we go. Share, continue. All right. So everybody can see that, I take it, including all my open tabs. All right, here we go. So, I wanted to give you an introduction to our chapter, the North San Joaquin Valley chapter of the California Native Plant Society. The California Native Plant Society is a statewide organization, and you can join it for a regular individual membership of $50 to receive Flora and Artemisia magazines, get benefits such as discounts at certain nursery sales and such, and the ability to join 2 different chapters of CNPS. If you'd like to join North San Joaquin Valley chapter and 1 other, such as the Santa Clara Valley chapter, the Sacramento chapter, or others, it will be an option when you go to the link on the slide, which is cnps.org/membership. I should put. I'll try and put this stuff into the chat, so you'll have these, so you can just go ahead and copy them. We hope you join us here in the North San Joaquin Valley chapter and whichever other chapters you feel kinship with. I said the membership was $50, but there's an option to choose other price options, and higher membership levels are available for those who are able to help the organization more financially. It's a great cause. remember, this is the link to join up, cnps.org/membership. I should point out that the long bar at the bottom of the label that's labeled other is for those who want to choose a different amount. And notice that the bottom of that barrel is actually $25. Not everyone can afford $50, but we've removed membership level titles, and that which used to be called low income level, now it's just you get to choose a different amount, and you can choose $25. We don't want anybody to feel bad about the fact that maybe they can't afford the $50. If you want to join for $25 with the magazines and all, you could just, but you can't afford the $50 membership. We still want you to have the opportunity to join us. So just fill out that amount for a minimum of $25. Now, the 6th edition of our North San Joaquin Valley chapter newsletter was sent out in November. Volume 6 of the Oak Branch was sent out to all of our members via email. This issue looks back on our chapters past, gives conservation news, and tells us about the keystone species of plants that do allow more butterflies and moth species to host for them than other plants. And I should point out that we intend to do everything by email. We recognize that there are some people who actually prefer US mail, and for those who are inconvenienced, we do apologize, but we don't have the financial or volunteer base to put out a newsletter using the US mail. CNPS has asked all chapters to find ways of reducing carbon, and saving all that paper is one of our contributions. If there's a true problem, let us know. So far, no one has complained. And if you are on our list, you should have received our newsletter. But if you somehow got missed, let me know by emailing me at the email that I put in. Well, it's just right there, cnps.nsj.membership@gmail.com. We want our newsletter to get out to everyone. That's our mission, to promote native plants around our region. And our best way of doing that is to keep native plants on everyone's mind through events and presentations and gardening. So we want to keep those of you who haven't joined the statewide organization in the loop, so that perhaps you could join us for an event or two and to remind you that we're here. And why do we care about native plants? We're finding out more and more each day about the true need to restore our environment as much as we can. The man who has been trying to explain the need for native plants with the most eloquence is Doug Ptolemy, a professor from Delaware. He's written 3 books on the subject, all of which circle around the theme that we have been damaging the environment dramatically, but there is hope in native plants. 95% of all birds feed insects to their young, and caterpillars are an important component of that diet, and caterpillars cannot live on non-native plants with very few exceptions. Native plants, this is the caterpillars and stuff. Native plants are critical to the ecosystem, and a backyard with no native plants, and that is a devastatingly high percentage of them, are ecological dead zones. Planting native plants in our yards helps moths, butterflies, native bees, and other pollinators, and therefore birds, and the web goes on and on. Our cities need not to be devoid of butterflies, moths, and native bees. For more information about this, you can watch a 1-hour video that knocked me over like a brick. This was a talk sponsored by our local Audubon chapters just this past January. The link, again, I'll have to actually, when I say past January, it was last January. And I'll have to put that link in the chat. And now let me talk. I have another story that talking about the importance of plants, and I don't normally do this one, but I want to talk about it. Native plants. This is Craters of the Moon National Monument, and my family just took a little trip there. It's in Idaho, and while we were there, now Craters of the Moon is, you can imagine, it's kind of an unusual area. It looks kind of like a moonscape, but there are a lot of native plants there, and so it's a very interesting place. But you're not going to believe this. Check out what, back in the 1960s, when they built their visitor center, this is how they landscaped it. So look at all those lawns out in the middle, out in the front of this building, and you realize, well, why would they put lawns? Is that there's this a huge monument, huge park, and with all these native plants, and they're beautiful. It's known for its beautiful scenery, and then they put lawns in. Well, why would they do that? Well, it's because that's the way they always did it, right? Landscaping has always been lawns and a couple of trees, probably from Asia or Australia or something like that, right? That's what they would do. And at some point there was some a drought or something like that, and somebody decided to audit how they used the precious water that they were sending to this monument, because they had to truck it in from, I mean, whether it's in long pipes or whatever. They don't have that much water out there. So how are they using their water? It turned out 75% of their water was getting dumped on their lawns. So they didn't need that. So what they did was they used natural landscaping to replace the lawns, and it worked out fine. Now, just because this is basically the intuitive way it should have been done all along, the truth is that we should be doing the same thing, right? And so that's why native plants are so important. That's a couple of different reasons. And if you have any questions during my presentation, please add them to chat. We'll do all the questions at the end. To be honest, this is going to be a kind of a whirlwind talk, and it may get confusing. I'm counting on the fact that this will be recorded, so you can go back and listen over to if you need to. And please note that the website address here. So there's a website versus app. Now, I use the word app a lot in my promotion of this, and Cynthia came to me and she said, Mike, it's not an app, it's a website. And she's right, of course, it's a website. It's not really an app, but I will stand by the fact that it's like an app. It's very much like an app. And so because it does so much, it's very interactive. You get to move around quite a bit, use it to learn. It's not your typical website. There's a lot of stuff going on. You can use it on your phone. It's I feel justified in calling it an app. And now is a good time to point out that this will soon be the old Calscape. There will be a revision. I expected it to have happened by now, but the latest release date for the new version is in February. And just as any work in progress deserves the time to get it right, we'll see it when we see it. In the meantime, I'm going to demonstrate on this older, tried and true version of Calscape because I'm used to it and I know what to expect everywhere. I will demonstrate the new version at the end. And at this stage, it is still a beta form and not entirely populated, and we're just going to get a taste of what you can expect with the new version of Calscape. Anything you see might be different by the time it is released. They won't be taking anything away, so it is just being rearranged. Basically, I'm showing you what is available on Calscape, and in some cases, as the new update, you might have to search for it. Search for things that maybe I've shown you in the older version. Their intent is to make it easier to find things, and they are improving things and adding new features. So we'll discuss all of that. So why Calscape? What is the big deal with Calscape? In order to answer that, I want to talk about a friend of mine's yard. Now, Al Kite is a former professor. He's in his 80s now, and he moved into this house in the 1970s. And when he did, it was your typical house. It had the lawn in the front, and the backyard was basic. I don't know if it was a lawn in the back, but it was a typical house with a typical front yard and a typical backyard, and they were already starting to talk about droughts back then, and they were encouraging people to do something about their yards and how they use their water. And it dawned on him, I don't really want to mow and edge and put all this water on my lawn. Maybe I could do something different. And Al is an avid fly fisherman, like renowned. He actually was a consultant on have you ever heard the movie The River Runs Through It? He was the fly fishing consultant on that movie. And there was a lot of Manzanita habitat in the areas that he does these fly fishing. And that's really what he wanted to have around him. And so instead of having this yard, he decided the lawn, he decided to get rid of it and start planting in manzanitas. And as he got further and further into it, other native plants, and he ended up with just whole little ecosystems running around outside his house. Now, what makes this relevant is the fact that it was in 1974. And if you can think back in 1974, what if you don't know about native plants? What if you don't know where to get native plants? Back in 1974, it would have been a real challenge, right? And it still is today, because you might find yourself wanting to get more involved with native plants based on everything I just said. And yet, where do you get all the information about it? The answer, there we go. The answer is Calscape. Calscape has all the information you need to know about not just the plants themselves and all about the different needs that each of these plants have, how, what kind of water that they would take and things like that. Talk about the plants that are native to your neighborhood, but it tells you where to get the plants. So I want to demonstrate how this works. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and talk about it. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to do is we're going to look at Calscape itself. So this is the interface you first get when you go to Calscape. Okay. And you can put in a zip code. This is my zip code. You can put in your city, Modesto, Turlock, wherever. You can put in your county, Stanislaus County, San Joaquin County, anything like that, and it will give you the plants that are native to that area. So it's really special that you're able to look and see what is native to your neighborhood. Now, you can also put in, for example, I'll just put in my actual address. And it will actually tell you literally what's in your neighborhood. So it doesn't balk at that. So you can literally put all these different ways of determining kind of the outer boundaries, and it will come up with the different kind of plants that are native to your area. So I think that's pretty cool myself. All right, so that's where you would put wherever it is you are. And then let's go to the next one. So what do you find is now, and remember, I'll just go back real quick. So you see all these different squares right here for those of you who want to see it a little bit bigger. You get to see the first line is all the plants. Second one is the trees, the shrubs, the perennials. And when you click on these, it literally gives you all of the trees from Modesto, Turlock, Manteca, wherever it is you end up putting it in from your zip code. And then it'll also give you the annuals and the grasses and the succulents and the vines and the ferns, all the ones that are native to your area. And then it will also look at the ones if you say, well, I've got a sunny area. There's no point in my even looking at ones that don't like sun. So I want to look at only the ones that look at full sun. And remember, you've already put in Modesto. So these are all the ones, when you click on this, if you've selected Modesto, it will bring out the ones that like sun in Modesto. Okay. And then it also gives you the plants in your area that like that are good ground cover. that are good butterfly hosts, that make for good hedges, make for bank stabilization, that take low water and very low water. Remember that a lot of people are already resigned to the fact that they're going to be watering their landscape. And so there are some native plants that actually prefer a certain amount of water. A lot of times it's not as much as you would put on a lawn, but and so there are native plants that require moderate amount of water, low water, and very low water. There are some that actually prefer you don't water them at all, especially once you establish them. And then there are damp soils around. There are places where there are damp soils. You're still going to want to know if there are some plants that do better in damp soils. And then, of course, very easy. But people who want the plants they raise, they don't want them to die on them. Okay, just consider how many plants I've killed in the way of trying to put in native plants or plants of any kind, really. The next thing I want to talk about is this search for California native plants by name. Okay, and this is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and let's start over again here. So this it can be independent of where you are. So anywhere in California, I want to find out. I mentioned manzanitas and the ones that Al Kite had in his yard. You know how many manzanitas there are? Check this out. So I'm gonna here is all these manzanitas. There's a lot of manzanitas, and most of these are species. I think I don't think the ones with there's some that have little names. I don't think they're cultivars. I think they're it's something else. I forget exactly what it was, but I think it's like subspecies or something like that. But the point is that there's a lot of different kinds of manzanitas, and it's easy to find out to learn about all the manzanitas there. What if you want to learn about foothill penstemon? So you put in foothill and penstemon, and there you are. You learn about foothill penstemon, a beautiful plant that that is not really from the Central Valley, but it grows well here, and you can learn all about it by doing this. So it's just really cool. Okay, so you get to search for any native plant, and sometimes you're like, well, I know about a plant, but is it native? And what I'll do is there's a weed called purslane, and I found out that purslane is actually a native plant. A lot of times you don't know that stuff, right? And so you can actually look up plants that you suspect might be, maybe it's like, you see it all the time and you're like, is it native? Look it up. It will tell you if it's native, and it will tell you where it's native to. Okay, so let me go ahead and go back to Valley Oak. Actually, let's see what I wanted to do next. That was yeah, oh, advanced search. Okay, so we're gonna do advanced search next. Sorry to bounce around a little bit. So advanced search is gonna get more prominent, apparently. This is the way this works. Um, you have all of if you want a different way, a lot of this is different ways of doing things. If you want a different way to find out, so here you have native to California, but you want just the annuals, then you can just click that, and then you hit search, and it gives you all the annuals. But what if you want to go back to your address and do just the that? It will now, let's see, we go back here. So let's go back to my address. Hopefully, so it's not gonna let me try something different. Modesto. All right, that seems to work. Okay, so it's given me 228 plants that it says are annuals native to Modesto. Okay, and you can see all of the different options for filtering here, right? And we'll talk about all these different things. A lot of this, again, like it's there are different ways of going about it, but the advanced search is another way I just wanted to show you about. Okay, because have you ever had a 3-year-old and you're trying to keep them amused, so you hand them your cell phone and they start playing with it, and you're watching just to make sure they don't do anything too bad, and you realize you're doing things and you're like, how did you do that? Because what they're doing is they're pressing all the different buttons that you never get around to pushing. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to push all the different buttons for you. So that was the advanced search. Now we're going to look at Find's Nursery, and there's a lot of cool stuff up here. Okay, so Find Nurseries. Now, we live in our area here, and the nursery I want to look at is right here in Oakdale. That's our friends over at Blossom Hill Nursery, Blossom Hill Natives. And if you go, do you see how it says nursery page, plant list? This will tell you what plants he's got available there. Now, are they always available? No. Just because it says that it's there on that list doesn't mean that any day of the year you'd be able to go to Blossom Hill Natives and find the plants that are on there, because it takes some time to get them propagated properly and stuff like that. And then another thing is that there are seasons, good times to plant and good times and plant times when it's really inappropriate to plant native plants. It's best to do it in the fall. Through the winter and the early spring is okay too. So they're going to have hours during those seasons, and they're probably not going to be open in the seasons when it doesn't make sense to plant native plants. So so there's the weird hours, because these native plant nurseries, they don't tend to have like normal business hours. They tend to do some weird things. Sometimes they're only open one day a year. Sometimes they do it by appointment. Sometimes they do it. They say, okay, we'll be open this one particular day, or things like that. So you got to kind of keep in mind that stuff. If you watch, we have at least and Blossom Hill Natives has an email. If you put yourself on their list, they'll go ahead and let you know what their hours are and stuff like that. So so to see, if you go, so let me go back up here and find them again and click. So I clicked on, what I had clicked on there was the nursery plant list, but let's go ahead and maybe I can't see. I guess that was it. That was pretty much it. So anyway, it gives you their phone number and their address and things like that. And see right there, you got his email address. You can certainly write to him. You go to his website and put down, get all this information about what he has available. If you say, I'm interested in desert willow, and do you have desert willow? And he can tell you what the situation is with their desert willow. Oh yeah, it'll be available when they're open or whatever. So you can go ahead and ask that way. Okay. So let me see if there was anything else in the Find Nurseries area, because there's a lot. There's also seed companies in here, and the cool thing about that is obviously seeds you can order by mail. And there are things that are easier to deal with through just going out and spreading the seeds like chicken feed or something. And so you could do that too. So let's go back. And the next one is design and inspiration, and there's a lot of good stuff here. So right now, there are 3 options. The first one is the California Garden Planner, the Bay Area Garden Planner, and the Planting Guide. So I want to talk about the Bay Area Garden Planner first. Some of you might be from the Bay Area, and so this, I think you're gonna love this if you haven't seen it before. The way it operates is let's get started. Okay. Now Alameda County has kind of 2 different ways of looking, and this one right here, the reason they have that is because this area over here is kind of different from everywhere else. So it's still Alameda County, but it's Alameda County on the far side of the hill. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that. Okay. So I've clicked on that, and now I'm going to go, the next thing it wants to know is what kind of habitat or plant community would I like to have in my yard. And the reason that's, I mean, if you're already trying to do something kind of natural, it would be nice to kind of use some of the plants that do go really well together for water compatibility and for just how they look better if you put plants. And that's one thing people don't do. Even if you go out and you plant like a valley oak, and you put a lot of times that's all you plant, right? You put a valley oak out there in the middle of a parking lot, and all it is a valley oak. There's none of the other plants that really go really well with a valley oak. So it would be nice to know that the plants you are planting are do really well together. So you select and you confirm selection, and it turns out that everything I'm talking about is in full sun. So you choose that. I could choose that partial shade, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and actually don't. There we go. No, that's it. And then it asks if you want. Do you want to concentrate on pollinators? Do you want to concentrate on birds? Do you want to make it easy? Or is it fire-wise? And I think you know when it is fire is important to consider. Okay, so now it goes immediately to it talks about see your garden design, and then it gives some tips and things like that about it. Trim dead material, reduce disease risk by buying from a nursery using best management practices, things like that. And then buy a garden kit. I'm gonna look in more detail at both of these, but I want to point out that it then gives you suggestions on plants that would go well in your garden. Okay, based on the things that you asked for, right? The one I chose was ease of care. But if you look over here, the benefits, some of the ones that are ease of care are also good for for pollinators. So and some are good for bees and things like that. So you can go ahead and look at all these different things and decide which one you want. Now, if you want to go to see your garden design, this gives you the opportunity to look at kind of this really cool picture of what it could be like. And here they talk about different tips, and don't cut grasses, to bare dirt, to keep viable vegetation in place. It gives tips and things like that. And then here it says no vegetation within 5 feet of the house except for movable pots. Because this is the Firewise one. This is just, talk about, it's a meadow. It's kind of inspirational to see what it could be like. And then the conceptual garden design, and it actually has some plant ideas here. I think this is kind of one in the same, so it's not necessarily connected to the selections that they suggested for you. And at the bottom, says bring your garden to life, and talks about living soil, talks about grass removal, soil amendments, mulch, planting and watering, visiting cnps.org/gardening to learn more, create a habitat, talks about water features and bare soil for bees. And in my neighborhood, there just isn't much bare soil left. And many bees actually need bare soil in order to nest. So when I've got my garden that has bare soil in it, there are a lot of bees and lizards and all kinds of other animals that are nesting in my yard that can't nest anywhere else in my neighborhood. And then garden decor and things like that. Okay. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Next is, and this I literally I was going through it trying to figure out if there was anything I was missing, and I don't remember actually seeing this. Buy a garden kit. So it's here's rain garden refuge perennial native plants. There are 24 plants, 150 to 200 feet. This is like the area. This it's like 150 to 250 probably square feet that you would need, and that's not that big actually. And then the max height that they're going to be is 4 feet, and then the sun exposure is full sun. So this is if you want a rain garden. Here's a bumblebee bioswale perennial native plants, the butterfly bliss perennial native plant collection, the fuchsia festival perennial native plants, golden gate perennial native plants, buzzing berry county perennial native plants. And so what you do is you go and you hit. I'm only going to go so far as to show you this, but it just says 199. It's a little on sale. It's like, and you get these are the plants that they're going to send you, how it ships, and things like that. So that's interesting. You get to and remember this is for Bay Area residents only. So good for you, Bay Area residents. You get to take part in that. So let's see. Let me go back, make sure I didn't miss anything. So the Bay Area Garden Planner, I think you got an idea what the Bay Area Garden Planner is. So here is where I'm going to give you some really good news. Okay. I said there would be new features in the updated Calscape. The Central Valley Garden Planner is coming out. So be excited because the stuff that the Bay Area has gotten with that last update, we're going to get with the next update. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now, they knew that there would be people that weren't going to be able to use the Bay Area Garden Planner. And so they designed a California Garden Planner, which, as you can imagine, is going to be a little bit more vague. The way this works, and so anybody even in the Central Valley can use this right now. And so what you do is you go ahead and say where you live. So I will say Merced, and then it says, well, what kind of a garden would you like? What are your goals? So I'm going to go ahead and say California Natural. And then it says how sunny. Well, everything's sunny, right? There's actually a lot more plants that like the sun than don't. What is your priority here? So you can say I want pollinator habitat. And then it gives you a list of plants, including, remember the thing over on the side that says what these plants are each good for. And then it continues, right? And if you click on these plants, by the way, it will go to the plant's own page, which I'm going to demonstrate later. But I wanted to point that out. All right. But in this case, you get basically an overview of a whole bunch of plants that are all recommended based on your location. Okay. And the planting guide, let's just take a quick look at that. It's basically a bunch of words and pictures and stuff like that. Biometric plant selection talks about choosing plants for your climate, choosing plants for your drainage conditions, choosing plants for your soil moisture conditions, and on and on. Installing new plants, watering established plants, and gives you a whole bunch of information. But so I think there's an awful lot of information in here that you may not even realize was there. All right, so that is the design and inspiration. And then the next one we're going to talk about is butterflies, and this is really cool. Now, I mentioned Doug Ptolemy's work. He had actually sat down and put a GoPro or something like that, or a trail camera or something. He had a Carolina wren, remember he's East Coast, Carolina wren that was nesting outside his house, and he actually watched all the food that was being brought in to feed the young chickadees that were nesting there. And what he found was that 40% of the food, the diet of these babies, was caterpillars. And so that it's important because the caterpillars require native plants for the most part. There are some that are able to use other plants and things like that, but that's one of the most important things about it. And so butterflies are a massively important part of what we're trying to do, is to help the butterflies. And the native plants aren't just native plants, they're host plants. They're plants that actually help our butterflies and our moths. Don't forget the moths. Moths are just as important as the butterflies. They are just as tasty to little baby birds, and are just as nutritious. So this right here represents 1,368 butterflies and moths native to California. Okay, but let's go back to Modesto, and you will see they've narrowed down to 78 butterflies and moths. But this is 78 butterflies and moths that are supposed to be flying around Modesto. How many of these are actually there? Well, you know why they're not there? If they're not there, it's because we don't have the plants. It's all about plants. That's it. So you can go to the Painted Lady and you can find out all about the plants that the Painted Lady butterfly needs in order to host, to lay her eggs, so that the caterpillars can hatch and go start eating the plant flesh, right? So the painted, and here's the painted butterflies range right here. So it tells you the Painted Lady is pretty much everywhere. And then here's the morning cloak. And notice that it's seen around Modesto and Ceres and Turlock and Delhi and Livingston. But have you really seen it? How many times have you seen this butterfly? It requires cottonwoods and willows, Fremont cottonwood, the box elder, things like that. These are all kind of wet areas, so you're probably going to see these a lot more around the rivers. But it's still important to consider, them. And then there's 78 butterflies. And everybody knows about the monarch butterfly and how important it is that we plant milkweed for the monarchs. But the truth is that it's true for all 78 of these. All 78 of them require native plants of one kind or another. And the orange sulfur here requires, here's a bunch of lupins. So if you have lupins in your yard, you're helping out the sulfur. The pinpoint clover. I've got clover out in my backyard, and when you walk up to it, little clouds of moths go flying up. And the leaves themselves, the flowers look fine. The leaves are all chewed up. They're all misshapen because things have been eating them, which is really cool. If you don't have holes in your leaves, you're not part of the ecosystem. So so you've got all of these, and when you're looking at native plants, you will see the butterflies that host off of them. But if you want to look at the butterflies, you will see the plants that they host off of. So again, it's all kind of a big maze, and you kind of work your way around. You find yourself in the same place. So that's what that's all about. So it's pretty cool. The butterflies, you can put in butterflies and learn about that. You can learn about the butterflies of Turlock, or the butterflies that really ought to be there. And here's another cool thing. When you see a butterfly or a moth and you're like, what kind of is that? And you take a little picture of it and you're like, I wonder what it is. You can go to Calscape and put in, and you could probably find out what kind of butterfly it is just from here. It's kind of a way of identifying it. So let's see what's next. Next is my plant list. Now, my plant list is there's not that much there. Basically, this is an opportunity for you to I guess share what plants you have. Now, it's been a long time, and it gives you an opportunity to start a Calscape account. So this is my list right here. Yeah, it's not very long, is it? It's because I haven't really done much with it. Literally, I put these in back 5 years ago when I first started doing my garden, and I never really went back and updated it. If right now it would have, you know, a lot more plants, a lot more. I've got a lot of bushes and things like that that are actually mature plants by now and stuff like that. So I need to go in and update this, but you can understand how this is done. So that's, and then I have coming the ones back at the time I was thinking, this is what I intend to plant, you know. Let's see what else. Okay, and then let's go ahead and talk about the different plants. So the idea is you go and you, so like, here are the trees. This is still for California, all of California, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about the valley oak here, and I've already got the valley oak listed. Okay, let's talk about what you can find out about the valley oak. Now you can see that you've got all these pictures, right? And these pictures will tell you what the valley oak looks like. Not they're kind of dependent on the pictures that have been submitted to them. So some are a lot. Some plants are more. They have more pictures than others. A lot of times people take pictures of the flowers and they forget to take pictures of the leaves, or things like that. But you have these pictures that will help you get an idea of what the plant is like. And then of course, like I mentioned, I mentioned the range, and just I want to kind of show you something else. This is the big berry manzanita, and I love manzanitas, and the big berry manzanita is one of the manzanitas that's up on the San Antonio Valley Road in that area, and I just love the big berry manzanita. But when you go and you look at this range, be sure to kind of zone in, because sometimes you get a surprise. Turns out the big berry manzanita has a foothold, naturally had a foothold in our area. So you can plant and know that you're planting correctly when you plant a big berry manzanita in Stanislaus County. It's pretty cool, I think. Okay, so the valley oak. So we got all these different pictures that show you what the plant is like. You get to look at the range. Don't forget to zone in to make sure, because sometimes you'll be surprised, find out that it actually does live in your area. It has talks about the plant, a number of different things. Now I'm going to talk about the nurseries further down here. And then it says add to my plant list. So you can literally just click and it adds to your plant list if you're signed in. Okay. And then let's see if I can just blow this up a little bit. So it talks about the plant type, which is a tree, but they remember I read off that whole list of things, ferns and bushes or shrubs and stuff like that. So it tells you what kind of plant type it is, tells you how big it's going to get. It tells you the form and the growth rate and the dormancy, and the fragrance and the flower color, and the flowering season. And those last two are kind of important because remember I mentioned Al Kite. We've made a series of videos where Al Kite gave his expertise that he's learned since the 70s. And one of the things that he pointed out is that when you're thinking about putting your garden together, you should be thinking about the flowering season of the plants that you're putting in and the color that you've got there, because you don't necessarily want all of the orange ones over here and all the blue ones over there. You can see what that will look like, because Rhonda does have a blue garden and she has a white garden, but you could do it. I mean, if that's what you want, that's great. Go ahead and plant a blue garden, all your blue plants over here, or you can make kind of a variety. Okay. So it's up to you. Then the wildlife supported. Now, they've got, I'll talk about a little bit more about this, but you got a little bird icon, a little butterfly icon, a little caterpillar icon. You say, well, wait a minute, aren't the butterflies and the caterpillar, that's kind of the same thing, right? Well, the truth is that the caterpillar, that means it's a good host plant. But there are plants that are really good for the adult butterflies to come by and get their nectar from. And so in a way they're separate, and that's the way they treat them. And then you have the butterflies and the moths that host off of this plant. So we're still talking about the valley oak. Oak trees in general are keystone species according to the Ptolemy. And what that means is that when they actually started going through and looking at the different species found on oaks, they determined that oak trees have hundreds of species of caterpillars, of moths, of butterflies, things like that. Different species. Doesn't mean that all of them are found in one area. It's not like you'd find 100 or 200 different species in one area. But when you look across the country, and we're talking about all different oaks, whether it's tan oaks or Gary oak or valley oak or interior live oak, all of those are considered oaks, and they're considered keystone species. Some of the annuals may only have one species that is a host off of it. What that tells you is that to that one butterfly or moth, that plant is really, really important. Without that plant, that butterfly or moth doesn't survive. So you learn about that, and when you click on, see what's trying to find the prettiest one here. I guess it's this one. And you get the range of it. And then it tells you all the different, this one has a lot of different host plants. And I should mention, if you look at the range for this butterfly, you would think that it would match the range of all of these different host plants, but they don't. So what's going on is, in one area, this butterfly or moth would host off of one plant, and in another area will host off of something else. So anyway, the point is that if you're trying to help the butterflies, don't just see, oh, it says that it's there. It may not be, because the butterfly or moth may actually be somewhere else and not in your area. Okay, so moving on to the landscaping information. It tells you that it likes full sun or part shade. Sometimes they're full sun and part shade, or sometimes it's all three. It's good anywhere. Or the moisture level. And then this is cool. Summer irrigation maximum 2 times a month once established. And then I'm going to go skip that real quick. Very easy. So it's important you know that they only list either very easy or moderately easy. They don't say difficult. So you can kind of take that based on oh, it doesn't say it's very easy, therefore it must not be. And then the soil drainage, soil description, and it talks about that the different kinds of soils. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. In fact, maybe I should do that right now. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, I know I can do. I'll have to go. Let me do this. There are ways of testing the soil by just literally taking a sample of your soil, wetting it down, not making it sopping or anything like that, but then you figure out it says clay soil is sticky and will hold its shape. It retains moisture and nutrients, but has poor drainage and can impede roots and things like that. And then the sandy soil, it has to do with how it holds in your hand. And there are ways you can just do some looking on Google for it. Let's see. I'm gonna go. There it is. All right. So there are ways you can just use a little pH meter and get the pH, and you can take some of the soil, and depending on how it sticks together, things like that, you can determine whether you have loamy soil, sandy soil, clay soil, things like that. So different ways of finding out about it. Okay. So we're still looking at the Valley Oak, and you get then it's just common uses. Now, some people they have a lot of deer, and they don't want the deer to ruin their plants, and so they will tell you if it's deer resistant. It will tell you if it's good for bird gardens, and it will tell you it's good for butterfly gardens, and there's also more for the bank stabilization and for other things like that. And here's another one. This is really cool. Companion plants. Remember I said that a lot of people they just plant an oak tree and they don't think about the fact that there's a whole oak plant community. The plants that do really well in the understory underneath the oak. And this will help you find other plants that do well. So when you plant the oak tree, you can plant other, like in this case, black walnut, gray pine, Oregon ash. These are all actually, but blackberry, the willow, native grasses, things like that. And then propagation talks about if you're interested in propagation, there are some good books and things like that. But it talks about propagation, and it also talks about the sunset zones. What are the sunset zones? The sunset zones, if I can find, I know where it is. It is in here. That's the sunset zones. But remember Sunset Magazine? Sunset Magazine used to be out. They have a Sunset Western Garden book, and they actually have zones that they set up that talk about climate. And so you can find out what your climate is by looking at the map and stuff like that. And so what that does is it tells you what zones this plant really works in well. Okay. So let's see. And back to our Valley Oak. So, and then it talks about the site type, inland valley floors, shallow slopes throughout most of the state is one of the key species of foothill woodland. Because we're looking for, what a good plant for a particular area, and it would be nice to know that you've got one based on the site type. And then the climate talks about the climate that it's okay with, and then the alternate names. So the Big Berry Manzanita, I wanted to point out. Remember, I talked about how the Valley Oak was good for birds. The Big Berry Manzanita is good for pretty much everything. They're good for birds. They're good for hummingbirds. So that means the hummingbirds will come up. Not a lot of these are not good for hummingbirds. The Manzanita is, the bees, and it's good for butterflies and moths. So that's really cool. And before I forget, I need to talk about the fact that you can determine where the plant is. Remember I talked about nurseries? You can actually tell where this plant is available by going to where it says there it's available in so many nurseries. So you can tell that a plant is, for example, very popular because it's sold at a bunch of nurseries. There are some that are sold at literally 1 or 2 nurseries. So you'll know that maybe they're more of a challenge to grow, or maybe they're more used in restoration, but they're not really used much in actually, oh, I didn't realize how late it was. So anyway, I think I've covered that. Let me go ahead and I think this should be a good time to talk about the new Calscape. Because the new Calscape is quite a bit different. And so it's got the fine native plants. I believe this is going to be the cover. So when you first come into Calscape, I believe this is what it's going to look like. And then you're going to have search native plants and find butterflies. This one is going to be wide native plants, and these are basically explanations about create pollinator habitats, save water, things like that. Garden gallery, I think that they're allowing people to start sharing photos of their gardens. Garden inspiration and garden planner, and we've already gone over garden planner. Find nurseries, and nurseries are going to be like a real focus of the new Calscape. So nurseries and landscape professionals. So in this case, you'll be able to, let me see if I go here. This is I'm going to show you let me show you right now Valley Oak. So this is, you saw what the old Valley Oak page looked like. This is going to be the new Valley Oak page. And I see it says carried by one nursery. It's not all populated. So this is basically kind of what it's going to look like, but don't trust any of the information you see. It's gonna have the range, it's gonna have all that information that you found. I looked for it. It took me a minute to realize, because I'm so used to the old format, but it's all here. So this is the overview is what used to be called, I think, there was like landscaping information, things like that. Remember, it had the writing, the plant description. You can see that this plant description is actually longer than the old version. And then it still talks about sun and the water amount, the summer irrigation, the ease of care, the soil drainage. Now here's the soil description, propagation, sunset zones. So all of the information is there. It's just in kind of a little different format. The companion plants looks like they're going to be doing some more stuff with it. For example, this, I believe, is exactly what the old one said when it talks about companion plants, but it gives you the chance to do some direct moving to look and oh, it says box elder, and then to go and check out box elder or things like that. The wildlife supported still there, but with the little changes in the graphics and things. The butterflies and moths supported still there, and natural setting, the site type, climate, plant communities, and then the common name. So it's all basically still there. So it's just it's in a different looking format. So some of the, if you go up here, it says plant your garden and weed and pest control. So it's going to give you more information, more advice on stuff like that. Let's look at some of the stuff. They have selecting native plants. This is what you get when you click selecting native
Hey,
plants.
Mike, this is Cynthia. Hey, Mike.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like 8:12 p.m. and there are some questions, so you might want to
All right,
kind of wind
all
up
right.
and see if.
So I'll let me give you one more minute. So this
Okay.
basically, it's because I mean, I think we can end here, but it basically talks about the different there's a lot of information, as you can see. So do you want to go ahead and tell me the different questions? Um Cindy or Cynthia?
Uh,
Or you want me to
yeah,
go
I'll
through
look at
and
them
try
right
and
now.
find
But people, if you have questions, just type them into the chat, and then Mike can answer them. There was a lot of other talk here, so
yeah.
hold on. So someone was asking, where is the find the nurseries button? That was
Oh,
right when you.
in well, I think I probably mentioned that one. The find a nurseries. Let me go. Let's do this.
It's from Patricia.
Right.
Patricia, if you have something
So
to add, just
in the old version, the find a nurseries button is right there. Can you see what I'm doing?
uh-huh.
Okay. In the new version, the find the nurseries button is right here.
Okay, so it's at the top. That's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Patricia, I think that answers your question. Then here's another one. This is from James. Does Calscape give information on how to prune the native plants? If not, can you recommend a resource on pruning and maintenance?
Uh, that's a good question. It seemed I haven't like read extensively everything. They did talk about trim. I kind of pointed out where they were. I'm gonna find it. They talked about trimming, but I know what he's looking for, and he's looking for more specific stuff about different, like well, I have this plant, and how do I how do I maintain it? And you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and mention that to Jessica, and see if how to trim, how to maintain, um, and it would be interesting to find out if they're gonna do more with that. There was like what I saw, the specifics about each plant. Um, let's see if we go. Would be a good one to look for. Does he have a plant that he's specifically thinking about? How about black sage? So we go to black sage, and we're looking to see if it has something specific about how to trim the black sage, and I don't think it does. Um, I'll bet that that's something that they're looking at putting in to the new version of it, but it doesn't appear like the old version has it.
Okay, I think there's one more question. Let me go
Yeah.
down here. Do you have a list of keystone species for San Joaquin County, Escalon, Ripon, Modesto area? This is from Melanie.
There's probably one out there somewhere. I know that Doug Palmy put out a list, and the list was kind of vague. I mean, literally, it talked about Quercus, which is the oaks. It had them number one, Salix, which I think was the willows, was number two, and well, there was the Acer. I'm getting all mixed up. Let's see if I can find it.
And Mike, one thing I'm curious about, which is this is a huge
Yeah.
amount of information. where did it all come from, and who's maintaining it, and how do we know it's accurate?
Oh, how do you know it's accurate? Oh, you mean, oh, you're talking about Calscape in general.
Yeah.
Well, they've been looking at. That's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't have the by ecoregion. So now there's National Wildlife Federation talks about. You know what? I could probably try and find more information. I don't. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to find it in a real short amount of time. As for where all this information came from, uh, they've got people that are, the experts, the people that have been studying it all this time. Back in 1974, Al Kite found the guy who ran a local native nursery, or a nursery that had native plants, who knew what he was doing and who was able to give him information. It's not like nobody knew anything back then. It's just nobody really told anybody anything, and it really took finding that special person. And so here they were clearly able to get it. I know that there is a specific guy that helped design Calscape. I forget what his name is, but he actually is. I believe he passed away by now. But they actually had um, a presentation from him about Calscape, and the fact that he had it all put together. And he probably addressed that, and unfortunately, I wasn't paying enough attention, I guess. Is there another question?
I saw the questions that were on the chat. Do
Okay.
people have other questions? You can just turn on your mic and speak. Do you have more questions for Mike? Mike, I think they're ready for the quiz.
Oh, there was a quiz? Oops. Well, there was a lot. Well, I think that what I need to do is to go back here and start looking at different. The one thing, so I love the way that looks. Find butterflies. So there are a lot of things I like about the new version. But it's gonna take some getting used to. It really is. Um,
And when is the new version going to be launched?
well, the current state, what they currently say is February, but then again, it was supposed to be December. So, they're trying to do it right, and you know how it is trying to do it right. But you could just see this is going to be a fun website to tool around in, with really cool stuff here and there. This the inspiration. There's the garden. The garden planner is basically the same one from before. And and then weed and pest control. Talks about weed control, pull weeds while garden is becoming established, rodent and insect pest control, disease control. And I know that they're still kind of writing this stuff out too. Yeah. Sounded like somebody wanted to ask a question. Maybe that was my own voice.
I'm just gonna say something because I've just read about this recently, and it's I don't think the jury is back yet, but some people are saying that the whole thing of putting down cardboard and mulch, that you don't need the cardboard, you just put down the mulch. I don't know. I use cardboard and mulch.
That it doesn't do the same job. If you put down just the mulch, it's not the same thing as sheet mulching. So,
But I know it's not the same thing, but people are saying it's just as good, if not better. But they do talk about putting on, you know, I don't know, 12 inches or something in mulch, and that's pretty hard to
right.
do.
Well, I think that's not everyone agrees with that. Um, there's an Annie's Annuals tag. Let me tell you about Annie's. If Annie's is in Richmond, if you've never been to Annie's Annuals in Richmond and you're going through Richmond, you might want to stop at Annie's Annuals. It's really cool. They have a lot of natives that they have out there. And remember, I talked about the fact that many of these nurseries, especially the ones run by actual chapters of the Native Plant Society, have really weird hours, very restricted hours. Annie's Annuals is open basically regular business hours, and they have a lot of plants going at any time. And when you go and you look at, for example, if you want to get baby blue eyes, and they have like a whole table of baby blue eyes. So it's really cool. So it's interesting that they got a little tag there for it. Um, and yeah. So and then this is what you get when you go to the fine landscaper professionals. And this is one of the things that people have been asking for basically is, hey, who can come and do this for me? Because I don't know what I'm doing. And it'd be nice to have somebody come out who can actually do the job of putting in my garden. Now it's unfortunately some areas are probably going to be well covered with a lot of professionals who are willing to come out and do it. There are going to be other areas like, who knows, maybe the Central Valley, who don't have a lot um, of professionals. But you know what's cool is that if we can get people to start this, maybe we can encourage people simply by making this available. Maybe we start encouraging people to get into the idea of being the garden professionals that are able to use Calscape to get business. You know,
And
um,
Mike, I just want to
yeah.
mention something that Bill has put into the chat. I think people will be interested in this. Is he's saying the state is the CNPS Naturehood Group series is giving a talk on the new Calscape on March 7th at 5:30. I'm looking at the CNPS calendar. I do not see that on the calendar, but
Who's doing that?
the state.
Oh, the state
You know,
is. Well,
huh?
that's really good to know.
Yeah,
I
I know.
didn't
I
even
don't know
know
why
that.
it's not in the Calscape events. Hey, Bill, how did you find out about it?
Do you have everybody's email addresses, right? So we can go ahead and send that information to everybody, right?
About that event?
Well, I mean things like that, yeah. In other words,
Well, I think we need to verify it.
well, right, but I know who to talk to. Um, I know who to talk to about if it's going to happen or because I mean, for example, remember I said it's supposed to be out in February. Maybe it's not going to be out in February. So if it doesn't come out until April, then they're probably going to put that off. So I don't know. Um, but but that would definitely be something. It would be good to go to see. Um, I think they're still kind of working on it right now. Okay.
Cynthia?
Yeah, Bill is saying that he's already registered for it, but I don't know where he did that because it's not in the
Go
in the
ahead.
event. So
Go ahead. Go
he's
ahead.
got some inside track.
No, yeah, go ahead and talk.
So Cynthia, I went to register for the February talk and it said, here's the March talk. And that's where it gave me the title.
Oh, well, why didn't I think of that? Okay.
I wasn't looking for that. I was just looking to say there's no talk in January. I signed up for February And when I did, it said, here's March. So I looked to see what the March talk was, and I saw it was about Calscape.
But
Did,
there's the only talk in February is our talk, California Water Culture.
Well, no, I'm looking on the Calscape Naturehood talks at the website I mentioned.
well, that would make sense.
Wouldn't those be on the CNPS events calendar too?
I don't know. I never looked there.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't even know that was that calendar. Okay. Well, thanks for
February
telling
talk,
us
I
about
believe,
that.
is a general gardening talk. Yeah.
Is it one of these?
If you click register there under develop an epic garden.
Right here?
Yes.
This is February 1st.
Now do the drop down for the date and time. March.
Oh, okay.
Click on March.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. So.
Oh, and it's set at the top as well. Yes.
Whoops.
So that's how you can register for that talk. And those talks are always recorded.
Yeah. But that's cool. That's you'll hopefully I was good to give you a talk so far, but yeah, that'll be good to go to. I should have see, you said Naturehood. It's native
I
gardening.
just find it really
101.
odd that these talks are not in the events calendar.
Well, for CNPS, that's something you might want to talk to them about. It is kind of weird, isn't it?
That's where people go to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't necessarily know to drill down into this. But
yeah, and I wonder,
huh?
this one right here, I wonder if they might be able to answer that question about the how to maintain and trim and prune and stuff like that. The different native plants in this native gardening 101 one.
Yeah.
They had at least one talk on pruning.
Say that again. They had
if you
one.
Look at the ones listed below that page. If you scroll down to the bottom where they list some of the other talks, there's a pruning 101, a seeds 101.
Yeah.
And that's
those
are
all
videos. And are those past ones?
YouTube videos?
Oh, look at that. Cool. Well, that's good to know. Well, I'll have to check that out. Absolutely. Okay, so it's 8:30. So should we just go ahead and figure we're done?
Yeah, I think we're done. If you want to have any last words, Mike.
Well, I think we did. I think Calscape is an amazing app or website or whatever you want to call it, and I think that that everybody should check it out.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Mike. This was really, really good, and I'm inspired to actually go try it again. And I hope everybody else will also do the same. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the recording now. You can hang around if you want to just, shoot the breeze or whatever. Okay.